during the course of this public process that was undertaken, with the coming into power of the new government, there were also imperatives to address socio-economic rights. And what would your comment be with regard to the decision that was ultimately taken to procure the arms in the context of the debates that prevailed at the time regarding the socio-economic rights of the majority of the population?
Well, commissioners, again, as the commission would be aware, the country faced many different challenges, many different needs which needed to be addressed. There's none of them important demands, none of which could be postponed. You couldn't say there are challenges with regard to access to clean water. No, let's postpone acting on that until we've built more clinics. You couldn't. So here we've got a whole spread of challenges and things that to be done, which would have been reflected, for instance, in the Reconstruction and Development Program as was adopted by Cabinet. So this particular matter, which, as I was saying earlier, in terms of the Constitution certainly, and certainly of the needs that we knew would have to be addressed, that is the re-equipping of the Defence Force. This is one of the many matters with which government has got to deal. So in dealing with that issue, we had to see how do we balance these expenditures on all sorts of things, expenditure on education, on health, on Defence Force, on the police, on all sorts of things. How do you balance this thing so that you achieve the best possible result with regard to advancing all of these objectives which we had to do? And I've been told, commissioners, that my colleague Thabo Mbeki and people at Treasury have dealt in some detail with this particular matter, and I'm quite sure that I have absolutely nothing to add or subtract from what they have said. But one of the consequences of that is that we reduced quite sharply the expenditure on the defense as a proportion of GDP and of the budget. It may very well be, commissioners, I'm not making this as a definitive statement. I haven't done any measurement. But looking at it now, at some retrospect, I think it may even be that we reduced it too radically. In the end, it will have a negative consequence on the National Defence Force, inevitably. But it was in order, commissioners, to deal with the question that has been posed about how do we balance all of these needs, needs about economic development. Where do you get the money to invest in economic infrastructure? Social spending, foreign affairs. The country has got to reopen up to the rest of the world after all these years of isolation. How do you balance all of these things? I'm saying that balancing was done, and I'm quite sure that Thabo Mbeki and the officials at Treasury have given a detailed account of how this was done and its outcome. And thank you very much, commissioners.
So in essence, what this process or the decision was based on to acquire these armaments was also informed by the balancing act that was undertaken at the time regarding head to government's policy of reconstruction and development. So that's basically it.
Yes, indeed, absolutely. That's it.